Okay. Welcome, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us for this amazing webinar that is entitled What It Takes to Succeed as a Neuroscientist in Africa. Let me start by thanking ALBA Network and World Women in Neuroscience for organizing such an amazing program. We have such an amazing panel of speakers, so grab a cup of coffee, stay on that seat, and take part in this very important and very relevant discussion about how you can succeed as a neuroscientist in Africa. Let me start by introducing my co-chair. I'm co-chairing this webinar with Professor Victor Bamidele, who is the president of the Neuroscience Society of Nigeria. Victor, if you can just wave.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here.
Right, you'll be seeing more of Victor during the webinar as it goes. Now, before we get into the main discussion for the day, I would like to invite the chair of World Women in Neuroscience, one of the co-organizers of this webinar, Professor Emmeline Edwards, who is going to give us briefly an introduction or a description of what World Women in Neuroscience is all about. Emmeline, over to you.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay. All right. So, so WWN has been in in existence for over 10 years, and over that time, we've really partnered with a number of organizations, including IBRO, SFN, ALBA, and the Federation of Neuroscientists in Latin America, the Society of the Pakistani Association of Basic and Applied Neuroscience, and of course SONA. So, and we do this because we have a mission. Our primary goal is really to create an improved environment for career advancement in neuroscience for women in all regions of the world. I have been privileged to work with an amazing group of women that form the executive committee for WWN. I'm joined by Dr. Jean King, who is the Dean of Arts and Sciences at Worcester Polytechnic Institute in Massachusetts, Dr. Pam Butler, who is a psychologist at Nathan Klein Research Institute, Margaret Matthew, who is a health program specialist at the Neurological Institute at NIH, Dr. Marta Davila at Howard University, and Dr. Weinreb at Technion University in Israel. WWN really conducts their activity through 4 subcommittees. We focus on partnership and collaboration, and this is an example of a partnership and collaboration with ALBA. We have a membership and outreach committee, an education committee that's focused on providing webinars, scientific webinars, as well as mentoring and networking opportunities, and a science advocacy group that's really focused on developing programs for developing resources for neuroscientists across the globe. Example of some of the activities that we've carried out over the years. We do a lot of mentoring circles, and by that I mean informal gathering with the same discussion to exchange ideas. We do a lot of professional development workshops. We have some peer mentoring activities. Occasionally we do some science policy forum. We did one in China and one in South Korea. We also did one at SONA on implicit bias. And at some point, we actually had some seed grants to establish collaboration and develop concept for grant submissions. This past year, while everybody was hunkered down during the pandemic, we actually had a SFN Global Connectome webinar. We did 2 events with PASBEN in Pakistan. One focused on the impact of depression in the large community of immigrants that they have in Pakistan. We did one with South America on engagement of diverse communities in neuroscience. And recently we did a very interesting webinar for SFN on self-care, because we know how impacted everyone has been with the pandemic. I can't resist to give you some upcoming events. Please join us on February 24th WWN is having a webinar featuring Dr. Tracy Bale, our current IBRO president. Please register right now, and the link is on that slide, or you can always check us on our website. There is also another activity that I'd like to alert you to. In collaboration with IBRO, WWN is starting a speakers bureau. And if you're interested in being included, contact us at the following email address. The Speakers Bureau is an attempt to actually have a database of researchers that might be interested in participating in giving talks or presentation at various venues. So again, if you're interested, please contact us and we will tell you how to go about providing your information. With that, I'm gonna thank you for your attention, and check out our website and reach us at the various venues. We look at our Twitter account, and I'm turning it over to Rachael now.
Thank you so much, Emmeline. Please, if you can, please join the World Women in Neuroscience. It's such an amazing organization with a lot of good initiatives. So next up is going to be a brief presentation of the ALBA network, which I represent as the African ambassador. So I'm going to also just give a brief introduction of what the ALBA network is all about. Can you see my screen? Somebody please confirm.
Yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So if anything, by the end of this short presentation, there are 3 words that I'd like you to associate with the ALBA network: diversity, equity, and inclusion in brain sciences. That's what ALBA is all about. So as I said, my name is Rachael Dangarembizi. I'm from the Neuroscience Institute at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. And I will be talking to you on behalf of the ALBA network as the African ambassador. So ALBA actually means sunrise in several languages, such as Spanish or Italian. And the word relates to the recognition that our scientific communities are beginning to acknowledge the importance of incorporating diversity and ensuring equity in the way we deal with science. And the ALBA network was created by a group of leading scientists with the aim to promote equity and diversity in brain sciences. Despite growing interest in diversity-related issues, they realized that inequities exist and persist even to this day. What we mean is that talented scientists across the globe are excluded from opportunities in brain research due to their sex, their gender identity, it could be their sexual orientation, disability, age, socioeconomic status, ethnicity, racial issues, nationality, region, cultures, all of which bear no relationship whatsoever to their potential to succeed. So ALBA believes that diversity is a fundamental component of excellence, and that access to education, training, resources, mentoring, and work should be based on an individual's potential. So we are committed to supporting and advocating for actions and policies that foster equity, diversity, and inclusion in neuroscience across the globe. So just a brief discussion or description of the activities that ALBA has got on the globe. We've got 4 major objectives: awareness and advocacy, visibility and recognition, data and resources, and networking and mentoring. And under awareness and advocacy, we actually were the first to put forward a declaration on equity and inclusion, where scientists and institutions in neuroscience could openly declare their support for equity and inclusion. This declaration is still open, so I invite you to please also declare and stand on the right side of history. In addition of awareness and advocacy, of the declaration, we also have webinars such as this one and panel discussions that we hold across different regions. We also advocate for inclusive research, environments with policymakers, funding agencies, and institutions. Then we have established some awards to recognize outstanding contributions from underrepresented neuroscientists across the globe. And we also highlight success stories of individuals and organizations so that we create role models, and we also get the world to upload them for their good work. And in addition to that, we're also creating a database of scientists as a resource for speaker invitations, prize nominations, etc. And then lastly, we've got networking and mentoring activities, which includes hosting workshops and networking events at major conferences. You would have seen us at SFN or at FENS. You will be seeing us at SONA next year in 2023 here in Johannesburg. But we are just trying to create a mentoring framework to promote the careers of underrepresented community members in the neuroscience community. So as I said, this webinar is one of many webinars that have been done across the globe. It's one of a series of webinars. We've looked at challenges and opportunities for neuroscientists in the Middle East and North African region. We've looked at the barriers to success in neuroscience in Latin America, diversity issues in East and Southeast Asia, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion issues in Central and Eastern Europe. So now we are in Africa, and we're going to look at what it takes to succeed as a neuroscientist in the region. Lastly, we have got our founding partners, which is FENS, IBRO, and SFN, but we also collaborate with a number of organizations, some of which you are affiliated with. And you also can be a part of the ALBA network. I'm hoping this is the question that everyone is asking themselves: how do I join ALBA? Sign the ALBA Declaration and stand on the right side of history. Join ALBA by becoming a member. It's free, you don't have to pay anything. Send us interesting data, host an ALBA event, browse through our ALBA members and find a speaker for your next conference, or just tag us on social media when you post any content that is relevant to our cause. So I hope you will all join the network and work with us towards diversity, equity, and brain sciences. Thank you. Right, so now, thank you, Emmeline. We now get into the main webinar or main discussion. And as I promised earlier on, I have an amazing panel of speakers. So the title of this webinar is What It Takes to Succeed as a Neuroscientist in Africa. And instead of gathering data and coming and bombarding you with data, we decided to actually approach real neuroscientists who are working on the African continent, who are in their different levels of their career or different stages of their career, all of which happen to be women. And we asked them to come and share with us the challenges that they've been facing, what they consider as barriers to their success in neuroscience, and also their success stories, because we're tired of the narrative that we always only have challenges here in Africa. We also have opportunities, we also have successes. So we've asked all of them to bring their stories forward, to share with us, and we can open a discussion around what it is that we can do to succeed as a neuroscientist in Africa. And so I would like to call upon our first speaker, and our first speaker is Prof. Angelina Kakooza, who is a professor and a neurologist from Makerere University in Uganda. Angelina, if you can, please share your screen. And as soon as you're ready, you can take it away.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, but we are right at the end of your slideshow, so.
I don't know. Oh, okay. Oh,
okay.
Let me stop and then get to beginning.
All
Just give me a minute. Sorry.
Okay, awesome. Perfect.
I don't know, can you see them now?
Yes, you can just go to slideshow.
Yes, I'm trying to get the slideshow.
Okay,
I don't know why it's coming to the end, but I think I'll just have to
Just
move
scroll
up
up.
a bit. Yeah. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you may be. My name is Angelina Kakooza-Mwesige. I'm a child neurologist and an associate professor of pediatrics and child health at Makerere University College of Health Sciences. I'd like to share with you some challenges that I have faced regarding training for neuroscientists. And this is just some of the challenges. My other colleagues will share some of them. Slides can't progress. Well, let me see. So one of the challenges that we face is the role of culture. We know that in many African societies, excuse me, there's a perception that neuroscience is a very difficult subject. And many times you find that even the teachers try to make it look like it's a very tough subject. And that creates thinking amongst the community or amongst the public that this is a realm delegated to men or relegated only to the men. So this education stereotyping continues to live in terms of people thinking that, well, the sciences, maths, neuroscience, it's a male-related subject. So women who undertake such a subject are usually frowned upon or discriminated due to venturing in a territory which is male-dominated. So the male attitude towards enterprising, science-inclined women is also not supportive. You find that they are either looked at as freaks of nature and feminine, and the women, to try to make sure that they are compatible with what society expects of them, opt to pursue the feminine arts subjects. Society is also equally unsupportive and makes those pursuing any neuroscientist career feel guilty, because many times you find these scientists have got to take a long time in training. And so they look at them that, you know, you've sacrificed the opportunity for having a family by undergoing lengthy training, which is not encouraging. So these women are faced with a cultural dilemma. You have to decide. Many times you're advised as a woman, first advance your career. First advance marriage before career. So some women are caught up with the choice of whether to become career neuroscientists or housewives due to the failure to balance career and social roles, making some women having to opt for taking care of their homes and families rather than their career, and taking on their career later on in life when they're older and they don't compete as well with a younger generation. Then the issue of training in neurosciences is a very big issue, especially in Uganda and even some areas in Africa. You find that we have limited facilities for training, and other neuroscience programs, maybe in Ethiopia, a few in South Africa, Kenya, are not that well developed. They lack skilled healthcare professionals. Role models are not really there within your country. There's lack of funding and weak research platforms and infrastructure. And if you have to train there, there's the issue of finances. Funding is not available unless probably you have a sponsor or your husband is supportive to encourage your training. So you find many women have had to either opt out from training in neurosciences or even have to leave home. And the option of leaving home to go and train away abroad is not attractive. So we know that when we work, the work that we do impacts our quality of life and our general life, our life in general. Previously, there were boundaries between our work life and our home life. But currently, with the advent of technology that enables us to really be connected wherever we are, the line between work and home is getting hazier and hazier. There's no clear demarcation between work and time at home. Today, work can invade our personal life, and maintaining the work-life balance is no simple task. So you find that as a neuroscientist, you are getting challenges in terms of your work-life balance. How do you manage work-related stress so that you are living a life that is balanced and sustainable? The issues that you have to balance, your family, your health, and other issues. So this work-life conflict is created as you try to progress in your career. So as a neuroscientist, you ask yourself, is a work-life balance achievable? Can you actually maintain this balance between your work that is pursuing your career and at the same time your life as a woman or what's expected from you as society? The answer is yes, but how do you do that? It requires not you taking one from the other, because the two, work and life, are together. It means you integrating your work and your life as a whole, having your home and family, work and career, community and connectivity, all integrated in one, aligning your priorities, not thinking that work time is this and home time is that. Having this integration helps you to be as a whole individual and not someone who is struggling to be split in two. Therefore, I'll end by quoting from a lady called Melissa Stegmans, who said, remember that work and life coexist. Wellness at work follows you home and vice versa. The same goes for when you're not well, fueled, or fulfilled. Work and life aren't opposing forces to balance. They go hand in hand and are intertwined as different elements of the same person who is you. So remember that there are challenges in succeeding as a neuroscientist, but imagine in working as a career, working your career as a neuroscientist, imagine that it's like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you have to keep moving. Thank you very much for your attention.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Thank you so much, Angelina, for such a brilliant presentation and for reminding us that, we work, but we also live at the same time, and it's important to balance those. Our next speaker is Gwladys. And Gwladys, if you can please share your screen so long. And while she's doing so, may I just let you know that you are free to ask questions to any of our panelists. Please throw your questions in the question and answer section or chat. There's a Q&A little icon right at the bottom of your screens. All our questions are going to be answered in the Q&A session at the end, after all speakers have spoken. Thank you. Gwladys, you can take it away.
Okay, thank you, Rachael. I'm Gwladys Temkou Ngoupaye, and I'm an associate professor from the Department of Animal Biology, University of Cham. I'm also a co-founding member of the Cameroon Association for Neuroscience, where I'm enrolled like the Director of Program Development and Communication. 10 years ago, when I was still a PhD student, I could have never imagined that I would be giving a talk on challenge faced by a PhD student during his journey to be a neuroscientist. So 10 years later, I can say that the challenges are still the same, and with a little different that maybe I managed to overcome some of those challenges. So when I'm listing all the challenges, there are three main challenges that are very critical for progression for a PhD student to be a neuroscientist. So I can list the lack of mentoring, the lack of networking, and the lack of funding. Talking about the lack of mentoring, we need first to know what is a mentor. A mentor is somebody which is like a senior in the field that you are doing or another field who can actually take your hands and take you out of the box where you are stuck, either by giving tips or links that can help you actually to get out of the situation that you have to a next step. And as far as I can recall, the role model, which is a mentor that I had that time, was my supervisor, Professor Elizabeth Kobum, which was actually the only female neuroscientist doing on fundamental neuroscience. And it was difficult. Maybe it was a chance for my supervisor, but it was the only face that I can have. She give her best and giving us skills and training my fellow lab mates and I, but still I was feeling like stuck. And then I wanted to have more. And hopefully she introduced us to Ibro School, and I managed to network and to get mentor from there. But what I can say also, a mentor doesn't have always to be your supervisor. It can be sometimes if the supervisor is open up enough to talk about everything, that's fine. But most of the time, mentors can be someone else than your supervisor. But at that time, it was the only female figure or person doing in neuroscience. So the next point is the lack of networking. Network is a key point for every researcher, whether you are a PhD student, earlier careers, earlier research at the earlier research stage of your career, or a senior, because if you don't network, you get stuck and you don't move forward. So it's very important to network. As I say, I had the chance to attend the Ibro school or our advanced ISN or other school, but this chance is not given to everyone because these schools are very competitive and not everyone has the chance to meet. So when you do not network, it's difficult for you to have, for instance, a recommendation letter that can, from renowned scientists, that will open to you doors to host laboratory or for fundings. And sometimes when you have the chance to attend those school or workshop or even conference, when you have the chance to attend, if I take, for instance, the case of the Central Africa, which is the region where I belong, because of the language barrier, not many people have the chance to attend to this school that is mostly in English. And when we come back, when the people who are attending come back to the region, it's difficult to keep the information on, or maybe to network in between, because you don't have many people to talk to and the links is broken. And I will tell you a short story about how the network is important. I think 7 years ago, I met a younger lab mate who was from Chad. He was registering for his first year PhD. And recently we talked, and then I asked him, how far are you with your research career and your PhD? He said, okay, well, I'm doing well because I've been hired as an assistant lecturer back in Chad at the University of N'Djamena, but I'm still doing my PhD 7 years later. I said, why? He said, because in N'Djamena, in Chad, they don't know more about neuroscience and they don't have lab equipment to carry on with my research, and then I'm get stuck. Now, as I'm working, I don't have enough free times, and I'm looking for laboratory in Cameroon or in the sub-region where I can travel for like 1 or 2 months, carry on with my research experiment, and then come back going on with my duty in my country. So this is the story of this challenge. This is the story of a Cameroonian or a Ghanaian or South African or anybody from elsewhere who cannot afford maybe to have a recommendation letter, who don't have the network that is needed maybe to go overseas, and who is self-funding his research. Because he's self-funding the research, he needs network in the sub-region who can actually facilitate the research progress. So it's very important. The sub-region network is a critical challenge in the journey for a PhD student. So this takes me to the next step, which is actually the lack of funding. As I previously said, he was saying that there was a lack of lab equipment. 10 years ago, my supervisor, Professor Elizabeth Gobun, was almost one of the only female in Cameroon doing basic neuroscience. 10 years ago, we are many doing neuroscience, but still the lab are still young, and we still need to have lab equipment to empower ourselves, rather than travel every time. And those lab equipment, you need to have actually funds to apply to have those grants. But in the career of a PhD, when he's finished his training as a PhD student, he graduate or being an earlier career, there's no training on how to write a grant or to be a successful grant writing. So I think this challenge, if we can solve those challenges, can actually help or maybe take the neuroscience to the next level in Central Africa and in Africa. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Gwladys, for your presentation. And thanks a lot for highlighting the limitations that come from the different languages that we have across the African continent, and how that can be limiting as a neuroscientist if you can't network with people because of the language barrier, especially for the Francophone countries. So our next speaker is going to be Anja, and as they are changing over and Anja is coming on, I just wanted to ask a question, food for thought really for the attendees, that you can always throw in your thoughts in the discussion. Does the word early career mean the same thing across the globe? It takes quite a lot of time for somebody to be able to get their PhD here in Africa because of lack of funding, because of so many issues. So if grant applications are limited, say by an age of 35, and someone who is from 35 to 40 is defined as early career, is that applicable in our region as well? It's just food for thought, and please throw your thoughts in the question and answer or discussion panel. Anja, if you're ready.
Hi. Yes, so as Rachel said, my name is Anja de Lange. I completed my postgraduate studies and a postdoctoral fellowship in neuroscience at the University of Cape Town, and I'm currently looking for my next career opportunity. So I'm still on the journey of becoming a leader in neuroscience in Africa. So I'm really honored to have been given this opportunity to speak a little bit about challenges that I've faced in my neuroscience career to date. And I gave it quite a bit of thought, and I decided that I'd like to speak about something that's very near to my heart, which is mental health. So mental health became a challenge early on in my neuroscience career. In my honors year, my parents were getting divorced. I was going through a very difficult romantic breakup, and with no clinical background, I ended up doing a clinical project involving mothers and their newborn babies, which required me to be on call 24 hours a day, and which I was completely emotionally unprepared for. I fell apart. I was overwhelmed, extremely anxious and depressed. Many days I lay curled up in bed with my arms crossed over my chest, trying to close up what felt like a raw wound over my heart, with fear and anxiety that raged through me. I cried until my face was swollen and my throat was raw. I felt so much shame that I wasn't coping, and I couldn't bring myself to tell my friends or my teachers how much I was struggling. Neuroscience nearly lost me that year. I was really fortunate that I could talk to my parents, and my mom flew down to Cape Town and physically took me to my supervisor's office, and she stood outside to give me the courage to tell him that I needed help, needed grace, and needed more support with my project. Without that, I would have probably given into the shame and walked away. Since that year, I've been on a continual journey with my mental health, seeking out safe spaces and help and fighting the shame. It can be very difficult to accept mental health challenges, and it often feels like personal weakness. But when I was preparing this talk, I came across a publication in Nature Biotechnology that surveyed almost 2,300 master's and PhD students from 26 countries and found that an astounding 41% of them scored as having moderate to severe anxiety on a clinically validated scale, and an additional 40% scored as having moderate to severe depression. So apparently I was never alone in this. So I've told you a bit about my story and given you some stats from an international study, but what about in Africa? I recently came across a TED talk by Ghanaian Bamidele, where he speaks to mental health in Africa. He starts off by talking about some of his own mental health struggles. He too went through a very difficult time and struggled with major anxiety. But despite what he describes as a wonderful support system, he felt that he couldn't tell anybody because that type of emotion was not acceptable in the African frame of masculinity. He says that he felt a profound sense of shame. I was kind of dumbstruck. We were two different people, different ages, genders, countries, same continent, same stigma, same shame. He goes on to speak about some of the misconceptions about mental health in Africa, that many believe it to result largely from drug misuse, or to be the will of God, or to result from spiritual possession or witchcraft. I imagine it must be hugely difficult to grapple with a mental illness in a community where neither you yourself nor those around you understand what is happening to you. He also highlights that Africans have staggeringly little access to mental health support. He mentions, for example, that in Nigeria, there is an estimated 1 psychiatrist for every 1 million people in the population. And further, that most African governments allocate less than 1% of their yearly healthcare budgets towards mental health care. I know this paints a difficult picture, but I've chosen to paint it for you today because I feel that it's not a picture without hope. Mental health is exceptional in that for some conditions, a degree of relief can be found when one has access to safe spaces in which pain and struggle is normalized through talking, sharing, and acceptance. Given what I've mentioned above, it seems inevitable to me that some of the neuroscientists in this audience and in your universities, your labs, and your businesses are facing mental health challenges. So I appeal to you, to those of you who are suffering, don't let the shame win. Find the safe spaces in your institutions and in your personal circles and reach out. And to those of you who are not currently struggling, if you are able to, try to be or to create safe spaces for people to talk. Together, we need to try to paint a better picture for mental health in neuroscience and in Africa. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Anja, for that very beautiful presentation. And thank you for sharing your personal story. That's very, very powerful and moving. So many of us have gone through a lot of mental health issues and the stigma surrounding it. And also just this natural belief, I don't know whether it's just us here in Southern Africa, but people generally feel like women are strong and they can take anything. But that's not necessarily true. women need help as well. Women need safe spaces. And I'm sure all of you have had experiences. Please share your experiences also in the chat. Thank you, Anja. So now, this conversation continues. We are now moving on to a survey that we shared with neuroscientists across the African continent. And we asked neuroscientists to mention what they consider as barriers to their success. And now I would like to share the results that came from that. Please give me a minute while I share my screen. Can somebody please confirm if it's up? Amira, I can see your face at least. Thank you. Right, so we asked you what you think are the barriers that are, or the factors that affect you as neuroscientists in reaching your career goals. And thank you so much for participating in this survey. We had quite an overwhelming rate of responses. And I'm just now going to share some of the things that that came back from that survey. So many of them have already been mentioned by our speakers already, so I will not really focus on them a lot. But the main thing that seemed to come up very frequently amongst most neuroscientists on the continent was the issues of funding. And I am sure this is also the same across the globe, but more so here in Africa, funding is an issue. And then that was followed by lack of networking opportunities, a lack of research skills, a lack of networking and, mentoring and networking. And these were the 5 major ones, but there were some that I thought were, that stood out and were very interesting to me. So like that one there, 1 in 4 people who is a neuroscientist on the African continent lacks motivation. And this really got me thinking, you know, if I'm training students, 1 in 4 of them is likely not motivated about taking up this career on. And that is something that we should really think about and be concerned about. What is causing that lack of motivation? Is it remuneration? Is it a lack of opportunities? And how can we right that? The second thing that stood out for me is 1 in 4 people, or even potentially more, talked a lot about their lack of partner support, particularly those, I suppose, that are married. Do our spouses understand what demands this career of being a scientist or a neuroscientist actually has upon us? If you are a woman and a mother and a wife and a family person and a religious person, how do you balance your neuroscience and its demands with whatever is going on around you? Do you get enough support from your family and from your partner? 1 in 4 people said they've got challenges with that. The other thing is 1 in 3 people complained about the lack of administrative support. And this here is very important for those of us that are in leadership or management positions in institutions. Neuroscientists need support in grant applications, for example, and universities or institutions have got a part to play. I, as a neuroscientist, may apply for funding, but I've got to show proof that my university has got structures for managing those funds before I can be given those funds. I've got to show proof that I've got enough support from administration, from financial administration. So I feel that these are things that we may not quickly think about, but that are very relevant and are barriers to us as neuroscientists in Africa. I will not speak on all of the others, but just to mention that there are so many other issues: maternity, there is lack of family support or social childcare systems, gender biases, cultural pressures, and all of that. All of these are issues that came up. So I would like to encourage you, if you've got any other issues or if you want to expand these or ask questions, to just throw that into our question and answer section. For now, I will now hand over to Victor, who is going to take the next session of the webinar to discuss successes and opportunities in neuroscience. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Rachael. That has been a wonderful session, and I believe you've handled that so wonderfully. It has been the section for challenges, where people talk about the challenges that they experience. And we didn't want to just run away with challenges and just throwing questions and questions without trying to provide solution. What are the possible solutions to these challenges in as a neuroscientist in Africa? And to do this, I am Victor. I'm the president of the Neuroscience Society of Nigeria, and as well as a member of the African Regional Committee of IBRO. And I have two members of the panel to speak on the solutions to some of these challenges. And the very first one is a good friend, Professor Amira Zaky from Egypt. She's a professor of biochemistry. Let me quickly welcome Amira to speak on issues such as how to succeed, issues such as, just a moment. Amira will be talking about how to troubleshoot problems in our career, networking, and be relating to some of the personal experiences and what she has done to be able to make it as a neuroscientist. So, Amira, I don't know if you can just start sharing your screen.
Sure, Victor.
Okay.
Is the screen clear to you right now?
It's still sharing. Thank you. We can see the screen now.
Yeah. And you can hear me well. That's
yes.
right.
Yes.
Okay. So hello, everyone. Actually, I'm very honored to join you through this webinar organized by ALBA Network and World Women in Neuroscience. As Victor introduced me, I am a professor of biochemistry in Faculty of Science, and currently I am the Vice Dean for Community Service and Environmental Development in Faculty of Science too. I am an IBRO ARC member and a council member of the Mediterranean Neuroscience Society. Actually, my friends highlighted some issues or concerns. I don't want to say problems because we can handle them. So they are issues or concerns. And I'm going to give you like a few tips on how to overcome such situations from my personal experience and from reading situations around me over the last 2 decades during my work. First of all, you need to have a specialty. As a scientist, you need to have a specialty and you need to master it. For instance, if you would like to be a neuro researcher and then a neuroscientist coming up with great achievements, you need to focus on one topic in the neuroscience field. For myself, I give you an example. I did my master and PhD work on cancer cell biology. And I was very interested to continue my work on doing investigation on the signaling pathways of cancer and especially hepatocellular carcinoma. But things have changed when I met a professor who offered some sort of collaboration, but on neuroscience field, because his specialty is working on, or he is working on pain pathology. I took a while thinking, I don't know how to shift. In my opinion, it was the issue of shifting career. It wasn't issue, in reality, it wasn't shift by the mean of shifting career. It was just an employment of my expertise in different area. And this is what I have done and took me to a successful world of joining neuroscience research. So my first advice to you all is to master something during your master and PhD work. This is the period where you have to learn and master something. And when you master your specialty, you can learn how to negotiate for your job description and time of work and salary and etc. if you are going to work somewhere. After mastering a specialty and you finished your master or PhD and came back to your home country or would like to join a team working in this specialty, you need to look around and to collaborate with a colleague from your home institution or from other institutions in your country or from abroad labs. Why? Because joining a team is very important for you to develop research skills, personality, and communication skills, as my colleague Gwladys mentioned. If you are a senior researcher and you that acquired enough skills to develop your own one, please go ahead and develop your own team. And always remember that working alone is not a good choice, and believe in the team power, and together everyone achieves more. So now you have a specialty and you are in a team. Try to seek funding. Funding, you can get it from national or international agencies. I know there is a huge challenges in getting fund, but getting fund needs some patience and needs building up of expertise. In my career, I started applying for grants after I finished my PhD. And since then, I applied for many, many grants, and all what I got represent less than 50% of the total number I submitted application for. But this never stopped. I keep applying, I keep trying all the time. For you as a young researcher, you can start looking for funds that support your training, and this can be available and offered by IBRU, International Brain Research Organization, International Society for Neurochemistry, and other societies like SONA, like Mediterranean Neuroscience Society. You need to check on the internet the types of available funds that support your needs. For me, the first fund I got, it was of the total amount of $2,500 US, which is a very small amount of fund, but I did not underestimate that amount because it helped me to understand how to manage fund. And after that, I got grant of $100,000 that helped me to establish the lab with the team and to buy the basic equipment. And then afterwards, I started to get more funding. But remember, it's not normal situation that you consider every time you submit an application, it should be accepted. If there is a rejection, you need to ask yourself why and to keep improving your applications and proposals, and you will get acceptance next time. So never underestimate small funding because it will prepare you to the bigger ones. Now you have an expertise and you are in a team and you have fund, good fund or basic fund. So start looking for networking and exchanging of expertise and facilities. If you establish your lab with a small fund, you can consider putting an equipment sharing process in place between you and your colleagues, your institutions or nearby institutions, because this will help all of you to do good quality research. Again, for myself, in 2007, I started collaboration with a friend in my institution, Dr. Marie Muftah. She was from the zoology department and she had a good lab. And from our collaboration, we were able to synchronize our expertise and our available resources and to do good research together. And she introduced me then to the international collaborator, Professor Marc Landry in Bordeaux University. Actually, Professor Marc, he was the one who attracted me to work in neuroscience field, and he opened for me a lot of avenues. Since then, I joined neuroscience research. And another important aspect is to keep looking for networking around. And actually, one successful story is my collaboration with the panelists who brought me with you today in this meeting. So keep building more connections by all and different means. And the last advice and the last word I would tell you is never give up. Always take the try again road. Take try again road when you are running an experiment and you have problem getting data. If you don't get the data you require, look more and troubleshoot on scientific basis. And try again if you are submitting paper and getting rejection or submitting proposal and it's not accepted, and revise it carefully one more time and ask the help of experts from your colleagues. I would like to give you something nice. We all, as a scientist, got used to hear or to see or to read a very common statement. We regret to inform you that something is rejected, your paper, your proposal, etc. So don't let this statement bring you down. And always remember, as a scientist, your specialty resides in your ability to conquer problems and to troubleshoot all the time. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Amira. That was a wonderful presentation. And she has told us that we need to have a specialty, and we also need to form a team, either join a team or develop a team. And I think one of the great take home is that you should never give up, because wherever you are, whether you are highly placed or not, there will be challenges, and your ability to face the challenges will determine whether you are going to go to the very height or not, because everybody you ask have faced one challenges or the other. Thank you so much, Amira. And I think we can invite another good friend and my vice president from Nigeria at the Neuroscience Society of Nigeria, Dr. Chinna Orish, who is a lecturer in anatomy department of the University of Port Harcourt. And she is also the leader of the Women in Neuroscience in Nigeria, leader and founder. Can Dr. Orish please share her screen? Thank you. So you have the floor. We couldn't hear you, Dr. Orish.
Sorry, okay. Thank you so much, my president. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Chinna from University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. So this afternoon, I will be sharing my success strengths and success stories. This thing is hanging. Sorry, my slide is hanging. Okay. I would like to start by saying that challenges are inevitable. They are sparks of life and they are ingredients of success. And for us to be successful, you must put on some colorful and attractive garments. These are the garments that I've put on, and it has gotten me to where I am today. They are the garments of resourcefulness, garments of sound health, garments of action-oriented, garments of determination, garments of self-sacrifice, diligent garments, and resilient garments. My first love remained in neuroscience, but I couldn't go into it until 2014. So I did my PhD in cranial anthropometry. I measured skull. So 2015, I met Professor Amadi. 2014, I met Professor Amadi in Umma. By 2015, I was opportune to travel to Ethiopia for teaching tool workshop organized by Professor Sharon. 2016, I was highly favored to travel to the United States of America to do my postdoc training. In the same 2016-17, I was also favored to attend American Society of Neurochemistry, where I participated in Women in Neuroscience lecture. After the erudite mentorship lecture by Professor Dangarembizi, I came back 2017. By 2018, I became the head of Department of Anatomy, University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. So there was a call for Ibro seat advocacy. I quickly sent in my application. Behold, it was successful, and the journey started. We had couples of outreaches. We designed our website, and I will say that proactivity leads to success and reactivity leads to failure. So take action now. We'll continue the journey. We're very passionate and very resilient. We started Youth Neuroscience Society because I observed that folks are very phobic, especially the younger generation, about neuroscience. So these folks were empowered out of self-sacrifice. They ran couples of workshops and outreaches. More so, in the last concluded NSN, the Neuro Society of Nigerian Conference, University of Port Harcourt, they did paper presentation, and it was an awesome experience for undergraduate students. Determination is one of the ingredients of successful neuroscientists. Despite all our challenges, financial challenges, and all the challenges, we were able to organize the first Women in Neuroscience Nigerian gathering, and Professor Martha, the World Women in Neuroscience coordinator, was one of our speakers, and it was quite an awesome and lucrative one. Occasionally we'll complain, we don't have the capital, we don't have the funding, we don't have the resources. I wouldn't do anything, I'm incapacitated. But I want to bring it to our table that most of the time we are not resourceful. Having observed brain perfusion fixation during my postdoc in the United States of America with a sophisticated gadget, I came back to Nigeria. I had nothing. So what did I do? We use drip giving set. You can see here, drip giving set with embalming needle to do our brain perfusion fixation exercise. And this is the product of our exercise. It will interest you to know that this has attracted 3D printer to us from Trend. There's no doubt that creativity is the most important human resource of all. Without creativity, there will be no progress, and we'll be forever repeating the same pattern. Edward de Bono. Yeah, in order to bridge gender inequality, because younger folks are very phobic about neuroscience, we started our award celebration, that's self-sacrifice. We run yearly awards where we offer both cash and certificates to the best neuroscience students, female neuroscience students. The male counterparts are not left behind. We are very progressive, we'll continue. Recently, we've launched another one, self-sacrifice, Women in Child Care Travel Grant. We want to empower young mothers, we want to encourage them, we want to bridge this gap. Who want to travel to Neuroscience Society of Nigeria conference with their baby and caregiver so that they will be able to present their paper during the conference. I want to wrap up by saying that integrity has been my watchword. Integrity has been my anchor. Integrity has been my shelter. It's not negotiable. The only true pathway through success is integrity. And at this junction, I want to draw the curtain by saying, please, please don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Keep on pushing until something happens. Remember to embrace every challenges of life. In it, I embodied the seed of success for champions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Chinna. That is quite a touching presentation about the work that she has been doing in Nigeria. As I have said, she is the founder of the Women in Neuroscience Nigeria and continues to be the coordinator. And she has been involved in networking activities, making sure that the women are brought up to speed. And she is also involved in coordinating the youth to make sure that opportunities are actually made available to them. Thank you for the work that you do. And I think something else I need to say also is that Dr. Chinna is also coordinating the Brain Bee for the Neuroscience Society of Nigeria. Taking from the presentation, she has told us that we need to be creative. We need to be able to think out of the box. The little that we have, we should make good use of them. And apart from that, we should have integrity. These are the solutions. Apart from these, we also, just as Rachael mentioned before, we sent a survey out and quite a number of people responded to the survey. And we asked a question about how we can change these challenges. What are the factors that have helped people to achieve their goals? And I will say that from all the responses that we have, topping the list of solutions are mentorship and funding. I actually look at HIT, what are the number of hits that, for mentorship and funding, and I realized that mentorship came about 50% and also funding 50%. So that means people believe that you can look for a mentor. If you are a mentor, if you are well placed, you can mentor somebody, but we need to just start from somewhere so that you can help whoever you can help from near and far. And funding, people also believe that it is not just good to say we need the money from somewhere. You can also look for a way of generating funds, and that the funding can come from private individual, it can come from government, and it can come from international sponsors. And as has been alluded to by Professor Amira, there are funding bodies like Amira sits with the ARC, and ARC of Ibro gives some funds now. And there are some other like the ISN, International Society for Neurochemistry, many of those. And some national government also gives some funding. These are some of the things that we should look toward and apply for. And Amira has told us that you don't expect to win everything, but it's very bad not to try. You can keep trying. You might, maybe if you try first time, you didn't win, you can also try the second time. And coming behind the funding and mentorship is support. And these supports have to be from parents, from partners, from government, and from people around us, including our family. Because you have a family that is not supportive, it can really mean that the progress is going to be terminated. Networking, I'm surprised, but it comes like about the fourth. About this networking and training will have to be in form of awareness, in form of conferences, meeting people and interacting with people, and deliberately getting out to ask questions and relating with people. And finally, that it should be possible for us to take the initiatives, just like Dr. Chinna did by recreating the equipment to be able to do her brain studies, and which has attracted a 3D printers, because you've lifted your hands for help, and you have made an effort by lifting your hand, and you have found somebody who is ready to help you. So this is what is very important for us to be able to succeed. These are some of what we have garnered from the survey. And just to add to what solutions that our speakers have mentioned, that's Amira and Chinna, and they have done excellently well to present to us some of the personal experiences that they have. So going forward, I would like to thank a few of my panelists and then ask if there are Q&A. I think Rachael may check the Q&A section if there are questions for our panelists.
Thank you so much, Chinna, Amira, and Victor. That was a very interesting and engaging section. So now we're getting into the question and answer segment of this webinar, and there's been a lot of engagement. Thank you all for engaging in the question and answer section. I've seen a lot of questions, and my first question is going to go to our first speaker, Angelina. And Angelina, people are asking if you can be able to give real examples of how one can balance their work and their life. How give practical examples of how you balance your work and life. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. I tried to type in the chat, but for example, I work, for example, you work in a hospital and you're on call and you have to stay the night. But then you've left home the family and the children, but the children have got to know that mom is with us. So the good thing we have is these smartphones. We can do a video call, we can do a WhatsApp, or we can try to call them to ensure that, you know, I'm with them, you're talking with them at that time. So here you are at the workstation, but at the same time, in real time, you are with your family and they know where you are. So you have to say, what have you eaten? Have you eaten this food? Okay, now we're going to have a bedtime story. You can even have the bedtime story on the phone as they're going in, tucking themselves into bed. So there you're actually in real time with them. You're both at work and also at home. Technology has helped us a lot in how we can integrate. So this is like an example that we can use.
Thank you so much, Angelina. I'll come back to you again with another almost related question, but I want to give the other panelists a chance as well. Victor, do you have a question for Gwladys?
So I think I have for Dr. Chinna.
Okay, sure.
There's this question that says, are there outreaches to improve girl-child interest in neuroscience? And what has the response from young women been so far? So I don't know if Dr. Chinna can provide some solutions.
Yeah, we'll have outreaches in my university, and most of the time, I know because our lecturers will can have a serious, crowded schedule. So these undergraduate students are the people that mastermind most of the outreaches, and most of the time we'll have monthly meeting or bi-monthly meeting where we'll encourage and coach women in the university. Then we'll go out for outreaches for undergraduate, for secondary school, high school students, to also empower them to pursue career in neuroscience. Does that take care of the question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, except if Gwladys want to say one or two things.
Gwladys, did you want to add to that? Or
we also run some workshop, like that thing is brain perfusion workshop, where we use the drip giving set. We'll gather students, we'll teach them. Then also have behavioral study. We constructed some of these behavioral studies apparatus in my master. I actually did it with my money. So I called them. There's one Barry who is Secretary of Neuroscience Society of Nigeria, taught us one part. I didn't put the picture. So we'll gather them, we'll teach them, because we'll have a monthly or bi-monthly meetings as time permits. But sometimes the schedule can be very, very crowded because of exams and other things. But once in a while, we gather, and not only that, as she was talking about work balance, life. One thing I talk to them about health, because as a woman, we face a lot of stress. Without sound health, you are not doing anything. If you have a sound health, you can balance the equation. Once you are down, it's difficult for you to manage both your work and your family stress. So if one is healthy, because that's one of my strengths. Even when I was HOD, I make sure they know me very well. I almost live in the garden, fruits and vegetables. I love antioxidant to mop up free radicals. So when I take it, sometimes I say, are you not tired? I'm always energized. So that's most of my secret. Yeah. So that's one of my strengths. And that's what I feel the women should do. Carry out this health talk on how to eat right. Because our main problem is we're not eating right. If we don't eat right, there's no way you function. I normally talk to them, you must eat right for you to really work. Because if you don't eat right, you cannot, out of experience, shuttle from home, from lab, from with something else. So we need to eat right. The first and foremost thing. And when we eat right also, the mental state will be stable. Thank you so much, Justin. So thank you
so much, Dr. Chinna. Thank you. That's a very important point. We need to eat right. We need to take care of ourselves if we're going to be functional. Gwladys, I've got a question for you here. It didn't really come directly to you, but I think you spoke to some of the things that are asked. They are asking about funding. Could you perhaps talk a little bit about any platforms or scholarships or anything that you know? Any of the panelists can also come in on this. Are there any funding bodies that we can suggest, or should we plan a new webinar on funding on its own?
Okay, thank you, Rachael. I think there are many, as Amira have just said, we have first IBRO, International Brain Research Organization, which support a lot PhD student and early career researcher. We have International Society for Neurochemistry, which also support a lot. So most of the time, people are not aware of the facility that they can get from those organizations, and they are really helpful. We also have tours that actually also support mainly for Sub-Saharan region. They really support researcher coming from this place. And we also, I don't know, maybe I can, there are many, if I can, there are many out there. So, but if you want to relate on like neuroscience, IBRO and ISN are really helpful to fund student and early career researcher to move forward in their career. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gwladys. Thank you for pointing those out. Yes, there's Ibro, there's
Rachael, can I just mention?
Sorry, I missed that. Yes, Emmeline.
Can I just mention that the National Institute of Health has an entire institute called Fogarty International that also provide funding for some areas of neuroscience. So please visit the website at the NIH. It's Fogarty International. And I completely agree that perhaps we should have a webinar dedicated to funding, by itself, because I think there's a lot of opportunities, not only NIH and IBRO and a lot of private foundation, that we could explore. So thank you.
Thank you, Emmeline. Thank you for rescuing me there. I was kind of blanking on the funding body that I was looking for. But I actually wanted to say that IBRO has got an African regional committee which is committed to funding some of the activities that are happening on the continent. And I'm a committee member of that committee. I don't know why I was blanking on the name. But if you want to apply for travel grants, for return home fellowships, for networking fellowships, and all of that, we've got those, as well as support for women in neuroscience in Africa. So look out for IBRO ARC, go to their Facebook page and find funding opportunities. Thank you for that. Victor?
Oh, thank you, Rachael. There's the question I want to ask Anja. I want to throw to Anja, which says, do you think the low motivation is linked to depression? I don't know.
Yeah, low motivation can definitely be a symptom of depression. Mental illnesses are always a bit tricky because, they overlap with just normal emotions. So it's difficult to know when a feeling becomes pathological and when it's just situational. What we often look out for is duration. So if you're feeling very low, if you're feeling very unmotivated, especially if you've just gone through a difficult life event, maybe a breakup or the loss of a loved one or something, that's very normal, and difficult emotions are a very normal thing in life, and we all go through them. So there's nothing to panic about immediately. But if you're going through a very prolonged period of a difficult emotion or extremely low motivation to the extent where you're not functional, then it definitely can be depression related. And yes, sometimes depression is also situational. If you do feel like you're stuck and you have no prospect and you have no future, that's going to make you feel depressed. So then it's going to be a combination of, working on your situation, trying to give yourself some sort of hope, some sort of future, but also looking out, giving yourself space, taking pressure off of yourself, giving yourself safe spaces, reaching out to people, and looking after your mental health.
Thank you, Anja.
Sure.
All right, thank you so much. There's a very important question here, and it's not necessarily directed at anyone. So I'm just going to read it out, and whoever wants to answer can go. It says, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. What actions would be required to facilitate the balanced dedication to a neuroscience career in women? Should the target be women, or messages or workshops to university stakeholders, or should it be to family members? How do we support a woman in neuroscience? Should we talk to the woman, or should we talk to their employers and institutions? Or should we talk to their family members? How do we make this African environment work for the African neuroscientist who's a woman? Any one of you can answer this one.
I would like to contribute with this.
Thank you, Angelina.
And say that we have got to start very early. It requires us to raise awareness about neuroscience right when she is still a young child, when she is just developing, to get to know the beauty of neuroscience. So here in Uganda, we have gotten some small funding, seed grants, where we're actually going into schools and talking to these students about the beauty of science, trying to make them understand our complicated research that we do. By seeding that interest early in life, you have already made a beginning. This seed is going to grow, and this child is going to get interested in pursuing science and all that. We don't wait for them to be an old, elderly person, but we have to start right from that nurturing time while they're still young, by interesting them in a simple way about what science is about. Thereafter, there will be advocates themselves to tell governments, to tell other stakeholders that, look, this is what we want. Another can try. That's my take.
Thank you so much, Angelina. Is there anyone else who would like to add anything? But I think catching them young is definitely the way to go. Totally agree with you there. And just as an aside, IBRO ARC, which I have really been advocating for, has got funding for Brain Awareness Week if you want to do any awareness, particularly in schools. So that's also a funding opportunity for you. Victor?
Okay, so thank you, Rachael. This question I want to throw to Amira. He said, could you please share the neuroscience training that are present in Africa?
Excuse me, Victor, can you say the question again? Can you read it again?
Could you please share the neuroscience trainings that are present in Africa?
Yes, sure. As Rachael mentioned, most of the training are offered by IBRO, International Brain Research Organization, especially for the African continent. There is a heavy program, condensed program of schools and workshops announced on the website, and applicants can submit an application when the calls are opened. And my advice is that for young researchers, if you would like to join some schools, please don't drop your application in all open calls, because this comes back to us and we understand that you have no interest, no real interest. So you need to write like a personal statement or personal letter stating that you are really interested to join this school, for which purpose, and you are planning to continue working on neuroscience in the future as a student or as a researcher afterward. This is very important issue to consider. I would like also to give some highlights on the issue of funding, if you allow me. Funding is difficult. Yes, it's difficult and challenging, and we all get depressed when we don't have running costs for experiments. If we have the equipment around, we can share it in labs, but running costs for experiments is crucial. So for every one of us, the issue is a little bit individualized. What I mean is that I'm in Egypt, so I have to look for local funding to buy chemicals or basic equipment from Egyptian agencies. Some national agencies are there, and some support could come from stakeholders or companies. So if you don't find national agency in your country supporting you to get a grant and to build up your lab, please go ahead with the companies and talk to them and try to convince them with your proposal, that this proposal during certain period of time or on a long term or on a short term will have some applications, and companies can finance your research and help you buying something and be a partner, and you can add their name in the acknowledgement. This is an opportunity or a possibility. So talking about funding is a little bit casual. At what stage you are? When I was a bit younger, I was always looking for fun to travel. But when I got a bit older, I started to look for fun to establish my own lab in my place, because my main goal now is not to keep looking to move around. So you will find an opportunity, but you need to try. Wherever you are, you will find it, but you need to try and never give up. And always remember that you have very, very good chances around you. If you can just sit back in your office or desk or even in your bed and click on your computer and find opportunities somewhere, you just need to convince people to give it to you. That's it. You don't have anything more to do. So please don't be pessimistic, try to be optimistic. And if you choose the research domain, you need to learn to troubleshoot. This is the key point. All the time. It will never end. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you so much, Amira. It's important for us to look for funding in any way we can. Private sector is also an option, so let's go there and knock on doors. Who knows, some of them may open. Thank you so much for encouraging us about funding. The other question that I wanted to ask, I don't know now why it has disappeared.
But Joyce,
right.
there's a question that is born in here, if you want me to ask that.
Right, I found it so that I don't lose it. It says, how much progress has there been in Africa to help women neuroscientists achieve the work-life balance? Paid maternity leaves, daycare in the workplace, grants for women who have taken long break from science. Is there any advocacy for such issues? And how much of success has there been in that regard? Are there places that have adopted this? I think this is a very important one. Where do we stand? What policies are in place to support women? How much support are we getting? Anybody that wants to respond to this?
Can I say something?
Yes, thanks, Anja.
I went on a research trip to London a couple of years ago, and there was a postdoc there who was, I think, I don't know, had been or was currently on maternity leave, paid maternity leave. And I think it was the whole 9 months or something. And I just remembered being completely blown away by it. And yeah, so in South Africa, we don't have any of those things. And South Africa being one of the countries in Africa with more money, I would be very surprised if any other African country offers any paid maternity leave or any of those benefits mentioned.
Right.
And any advocacy towards it.
Can I have the floor?
Thank you so much. So Angelina, then Chinna.
Okay, for Uganda.
That's my burden. My heart was bleeding because most of the time you see that we need help in this country, especially Nigeria. So that was why I initiated this mother-child care travel grant. I personally want to take the bull by the horn. So by the next coming neuroscience conference in Nigeria, I using my money. I want to sponsor at least maybe one mother with her baby to attend conference with her caregiver and present paper. That's what I want to do. So this, I'm sure when I started, I working out because it's quite a big burden. I haven't experienced what I experienced, so it's like I'm crazy about neuroscience and mentorship. So that's why I'm pushing. Even the award I'm giving is my money. I'm used to do it. So this year we're gonna do that one. Women that are traveling for conference, at least we'll start with one person. We'll sponsor her with her baby and caregiver to present her paper.
Thank you so much, Chinna. Changing neuroscience in Africa, one mother at a time. That sounds really amazing. Thank you, Angelina.
Thank you very much, Chinna, for sharing that. And that would be really great. But we still have a challenge generally in Africa regarding paid maternity leave. Different countries have different days. Some have 45 days paid leave. So you find a mother has got to join her annual leave with her maternity leave to be able to get at least a minimum of 6 weeks or about 2 months. But this culture, like where you find probably countries like Sweden, where they give paternity leave, they give maternity leave, is something that we really have to advocate for. And also the fact that when you're studying and you get pregnant, you're sort of like frowned upon. Are you really serious? I mean, why are you doing this? And facilities to support you as a pregnant, someone who has a baby, are still a myth in our society. So we really need to work hard and see that these are advocacy issues that we need to promote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angelina. Victor, I think we will be getting the last few questions in because of our time.
All right, thank you, Rachael and Angelina and Chinna, for the passion that you have for neuroscience. It is obvious. Two questions in one on the chat. The first one says that somebody is starting a PhD outside the country, outside Nigeria, and and the question is, how, at the age of 34, how can I, as a mentor, facilitate his scientific growth in this challenging situation where everybody in the lab is younger, much younger than him? I don't know if Angelina wants to say something about that.
I just appreciate this. This is a male, though not a female, but I do understand that in Africa, very many times you find that we start our career progress at a much later time. And it's so frustrating when you see an application or a call for maybe grants or a call for sponsorship, and then you look at eligibility, oh my goodness, age before this. So you get so discouraged. So we really need to have people consider the African situation. Many times women, because you start the family first and then you go to career next, you find that they are much older, or you find that the age limit actually bars them, yet they're actually starting their PhD at a much older age. So for me to encourage this person that age is a number, really it is, you're as young as you feel. So he or she should actually combine with the other team who's in that lab, do and prove themselves that they can actually do whatever that the others are doing, and that the age is not an issue. But when we are limited by age as Africans, we really find that we get discouraged in terms of progressing our career. So either the age limit has to be revised, or they have to think of another way in which to consider those who start their careers late in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelina. If I may add something, like, it is common for African that we don't start the postgraduate program on time because of funding and other things that have to do with family and the cultural outlook. For my own personal story, I'm not supposed to answer a question, but when I was in Italy at the age of 35, just finishing my PhD, and I met quite a lot of people from Europe and Africa at an Hebrew school, and they were just like 24, 25, 26. I blended well. I forgot about my age. I think you just need to, whoever might have asked this question, because it's a mentor asking a question, just tell him to forget about his age. And I can tell you, as a Nigerian, he is going to be well motivated because he believes that having a PhD or enrolling for a PhD is a rare opportunity for him. So you won't have a problem. I do believe that you'll be able to work with him. Just don't treat him separately. Just look at him like every other person that is in the lab, give him all the work that he needs to do. And because when you start putting him on one side and thinking, oh, this one is older, it might really affect him. But let him be able to blend with everybody in the laboratory, and that is going to be good for his development. I think I said two questions in one. There's another one that says, how can those of us outside of Africa co-create solutions? And I think this is something we need. Angelina, want to say something?
I want to say something.
Gwladys wanted to say something.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Just to go in the same way, like Angelina just said, recently when I was having meeting with students, and I was sharing links, regarding the different opportunity for PhD and even postdoc. And then I have one of my students, which is age, and he told me, am I concerned with those links? So with those applications, because himself, he felt like he's old for the opportunity. And I really felt bad because I just say, no, you can still apply because things are changing. There's no more we don't look much on the age. If you are able, you can have your chance, or even you can look for travel grant, or even fund for equipment. So just apply. Don't feel like you are too old. And I really felt bad. And because for his particular case, he has an interruption because he was sick. He was depressed, and he spent like 6 years without going to school, and he started later. So those 6 was very like an axe in his head, because it changed everything for him. He wants to move on, but the age now becomes the limit, not because he wanted, but it just happened like that. So I think things has to be done for this kind of issue of person who want to move forward, but the age becomes a barrier. So that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gwladys. Generally in Africa, maybe South Africa may not be, we don't start school, postgraduate school early enough. And so age is always going to be an advantage for us. And I think that's our advocacy, that outside the country, in the US, Europe, they should always treat Africa separately and know that the age bracket they create for them won't work for Africa if you want the best of the best to apply for some of these grants. Thank you very much.
So much,
Rachael.
And just completing the circle on that age issue, I would like to shout out to Karen Fitzgerald, who says, I'm 55 and I'm completing a PhD, so I'm early career at 55, LOL. Indeed, there's no age limit to neuroscience. You can be early career at any age that you want.
Rachael, are you answering your question, Rachael?
No, I'm not answering
the question about early career. I think you did.
Yes, she was answering the question about early career that had been raised by Martha. All right, thank you so very much. I think the last question was the one that you raised, Victor, that says, how can those of us outside of Africa co-create solutions? So how should we collaborate with those outside Africa to make sure that we improve the environment and reduce the barriers for neuroscientists on the continent? What would you want people outside Africa to do?
Can I say something?
Yes, Anja.
Well, I think one way that's kind of very accessible is that people outside of Africa have skills that are very desirable to us. And so I think the lowest sort of resistance thing that someone outside of Africa can do is to just travel here to an institution in Africa, and we can organize some sort of training situation where like a large number of African scientists can benefit from one international scientist skill set.
Right.
So I think that's one example of how an individual international scientist can make quite a big impact.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Anja. So sharing skills, transferring skills, collaborating and networking with African researchers. Any other person?
Rachael, can I just mention something? So we have not mentioned the Society for Neuroscience at all as a potential resource. And I know sometimes people from other countries might say, well, it's expensive to become a member. But what I want to suggest is that, as Amira mentioned, if you form a team, maybe you can put resources together and have 1 or 2 membership. And that allows you to actually have access to many training programs on Neuron Online. That's a resource that perhaps could be very helpful for scientists all over the world. So that's one suggestion. And having a webinar like this one, where we're starting to hear from neuroscientists in Africa what are their needs, is a first step to me as to developing new programs and progressing in that area. So thank you. It was wonderful hearing your comments and highlighting the need and challenging and also the successes. So thank you for that.
Right. Yeah. Thank you all so much. And thank you so much, Emmeline, for that. SFN has got opportunities that we can tap into. I think that's very, very important for us. Every good thing has got to come to an end. And it's so sad that, we have to actually end this really beautiful webinar. But the good news is that, look, this is the first of many such webinars that we can do, that we can get together, discuss some of the important issues that affect us, or share opportunities and successes to encourage each other as neuroscientists on the African continent. May I take this opportunity to thank our organizers, the ALBA network, WWN. I would like to also thank all the attendees. Thank you all so much for tuning in from your different spaces. Take the word out that there is so much that we can do as neuroscientists here in Africa, so many funding opportunities, and we can get together as well and share. Also to thank my co-chair, Professor Victor Bamidele. Thank you so much. You're such a wonderful chair. We should do this again sometime soon. And also lastly, to thank Matilde, who has been really helpful in coordinating behind the scenes to get this webinar to go. I think we've come to the end. I don't know if you've got any last words, Matilde and Emmeline, before we close.
I think we should just thank the IBRO ARC, IBRO SFN, SONA for the partnership and support, and also all the panelists for finding time to also come and talk to us.
Absolutely. How could I forget the panelists? Thank you all so much. Thank you, Victor.
I just want to remind everybody that on February 24th, we have this WWN webinar that's going to really feature Dr. Tracy Bale. She's going to talk about experience is everything. Tracy is a wonderful speaker. She's going to be sharing her journey and also some of her scientific interests. So please register and attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I think we've come to the end. Thank you all so much and take care. Maybe the speakers, if you can hold them for a minute.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.